For rain, but the rain has disrupted my program. So before I begin, I would want to apologize to everybody for the late start of the program. I think when you are coming, you see all the blockades on the road, the traffic and all that. It's not an excuse, but we are hoping that other colleagues yet to join us will be able to join us safely. We all know that when it rains in Accra, we are not even crying because it will hit us, but we are crying for the floods that might happen. So I think we'll start the program whilst they join us. And our MC has been caught up, so I will try and fill his shoes until he comes in to take over. Thank you. So before we kickstart, I would want us all to observe some minutes of silence. At Action Aid, we believe everybody has a right. So we ask you to call on whatever deity, God you believe in, putting the program in his hands, that it will come out successfully, and that what we wish for, at the end of the day, we can see some changes in how our money is being spent. So can we just give ourselves about 2 minutes, 2 seconds to do that? Amen, Amen. I don't know the other one. So before I start, my name is Eugenia Ishitsoyagiba. I'm with Action Aid Ghana as the Women's Rights and Campaigns Manager. So I will be your interim MC for now. I would like to welcome everybody. I wish I could introduce everybody, but given that time is fast spent, I would only acknowledge a few people by name, but then that doesn't mean that we are all not important dignitaries. Everybody has a place at the table. Everybody is important to the process. Everybody is important to change. So permit me to acknowledge the presence of my country director, John Nko, who is sitting at the head of the table there. And then the Vice Chancellor for UDS, Seydou Al-Hassan. It's Prof, eh? Okay. And then the Executive Director for SICOT, Mr. Bernard Gruni. Okay, thank you. And then our board chair is yet to join us, but he will be in the person of Nanaya Ochre Idwache. So thank you. I would go on to introduce a chairperson who can steer this program better than I am doing right now. And for some of us, you hear people on TV, on radio speaking, and you wonder, would I ever get the chance to meet them? So when you see them in person, it's like, you want to be like those star people, you just go, can I have your signature? So our chairperson for the day is our chairperson for the day obtained his PhD in agricultural economics and marketing. I would want to think I skipped Prof. Kuonu, who is the Vice Chancellor for UNER, coming all the way from Sunyani. Prof, you are welcome. So our chairperson for the day is going to be the Vice Chancellor for UDS, Professor Seydou Al-Hassan. And I think when we see where UDS is right now, we can only pay tribute to his leadership, how far he's brought it, the transformations that are going on there. It's marvelous. I think when I was at the university, I keep on saying that the first time I went to UDS, I was like, whoa. Then recently I went to UDS and I asked my friend, is this UDS? The transformation is astronomical. When you read the research papers that are coming out, and UDS is leading it, you realize the reason why now UDS is one of the leading institutions when it comes to development work. And some of us are looking forward to pursuing some courses there because they really speak to where we want to go. So without wasting more time, I would call on Prof to accept the chairmanship and then steer the program for us. Thank you very much. Okay, Prof is walking up, so can we please welcome him with a round of applause?
It's for you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity to take charge of this important program. Some little bit of protocol has already been established, and I also want to build strongly on that and to say that I do sincerely and heartily agree and accept to take charge of these 2 days important interactions that will help the nation to achieve climate justice. So I do accept to be your chair. But ladies and gentlemen, just to set the tone, when issues about climate are put on the table, I, in person, become intoxicated. I get drowned. Sometimes you don't know what else to say. Because we've been talking about these things, researching into that, conferencing, advocacy and those things. But it's like our problems, insofar as the environment is concerned, is still deepening. This morning I was interacting with a renowned politician, and I asked him, why is it that we give you all the solutions, but you are not taking action? They said they take action, but it's just that they don't get the aid. So action aid, you have to sit up. The problem is that Ghana has 3 main problems. I call the problem the 3 C's. The 3 C's. The number 1 C is corruption. Number 2, connections. And the third one is confusion. That's all. These are the 3 main problems that is affecting the whole entire nation, including the climate issues. Corruption connection, confusion. We have what it takes to fix the problems, but because of corruption. We have what it takes to defend the good name of this country, but because of connections. You can do anything and go scot-free. Law and order. It doesn't work. We have all seen the clips. Just a while ago, I was looking at our environment, the water resources, how the damage we are causing, and we are complaining. Where are our leaders? The political will is very key. We need to move away from them versus us. It's very dangerous. When a nation gets to a point where you now have people saying that they versus us, then that is the problem. Some are trying to mend, some are trying to divide, some are trying to unite, some are trying to cause confusion. That's the problem. I must be frank with you, this issue or topic is so important because we are not trying to see how we can even allocate resources much more efficiently. If we are over-concentrating on fossil fuels and industrial agriculture where we apply chemicals, today we are trying to say that let's look at it, let's take a second look at it and see how we can shift our scarce resources to more productive areas that will bring more food. Country Director, actually, let me share this with you. Food sovereignty is a huge thing you are talking about. I don't even know how many policymakers are in this room. We will just talk and talk. After tomorrow, that is it. Food, and I have said it in other platforms, should be Ghana's number one priority. Food. Look at the potential, the land. I don't know whether this is a joke or not. I understand some Israelis found themselves in northern Ghana. When they saw the vast piece of land, they were weeping in quotes. Why? Because they look at what we have and how we are struggling, and what they don't have, and they have food sovereignty. What is that? You go to places like Iran, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, desert areas. The variety of fruits that you can eat, you can never get hungry. There are varieties. How are they doing this? And we have the resources, yet the ability to mobilize and galvanize efforts to fight these things. It's a problem. I said it once that you're talking about debt burden. Ghana is owing a lot. Now you are owing. You have to service your debts. And then also you are hungry. So I was saying that it will be difficult for even Ghana to service its debts unless this food sovereignty thing is attained. Yes. Put yourself in the situation whereby you are owing me 100 Ghana cedis, but your income is 70 Ghana cedis. So every day or morning I'll come to you, bring my 100. Meanwhile, you have to eat. Can you go hungry and pay me? No. That is the analogy in which this country is finding itself. So, for me, for us to talk about these important issues, we are with you. And those of you who care to know, a couple of weeks ago, the UTAG, University Teachers Association of Ghana, has threatened to go on strike with our counterpart civil society organizations in the name of fixing climate issues, especially the Galamsey problem in this country. That is where this issue has taken us. So the teachers, the researchers, the administrators in the university have also now realized that if we don't join the train, that country broke or broke, you are not concerned, is now something everybody should be concerned about. So it's now becoming too much a concern that we must all join the fight. I get worried when I find people in my area cutting trees here and there. I get worried. But you ask them why they do that, they tell you that they must survive. So there is the need for the state to see how we can blend these poverty issues, livelihood issues, with controlling the environment. Ladies and gentlemen, I know there's going to be quality discussions and presentations, but let me take my seat as the chairman of this program and leave you with one thing as Ghanaians, my brothers and sisters. In the name of Allah, we must be serious. We must be serious. We must say what we mean and do what we say we want to do. We have to. We mustn't be money lovers. We must be worried about our future. And we have to see how we can fix our problems. Everybody in this world loves one word: peace. Peace. And with that word, peace, it has 5 letters. I leave you with those letters and their meanings. The P stands for people. The E is your enemies. The A is the Almighty Allah. And the C, children, because they are the future leaders. And I'm interested in the last letter, E, that is the environment. So anybody who is preaching peace, climate change, whatever, environmental sustainability, and you do not love peace, then you cannot succeed. People, even your enemies, we call them sometimes opposition. Opposition might be giving you good ideas. You may see them as enemies, but you have to listen. Allah has created this earth the way He wanted it. When you destroy, you will face the consequences. As far back in the 70s, a researcher said, man can never oppose nature and be happy. You cannot oppose nature. You have to cooperate with nature. So that is why the A is in the peace. Allah, you have to respect creation, nature. And the C, children, I've already told you, they are our future leaders. Sustainable development because of the children. And the A is what we are talking about, the environment. I'm also here to learn, so I will take my seat and then urge you to be time conscious. This morning, the country director deceived me, because yesterday I had planned to be here at 9:40, having studied your program and knowing the behavior of us, all of us. I said I would be here at 9:40, but he called me this morning around 8:20, said, we are going to start at 9. So I quickly called my driver. He said, look, please, I have to be there at 9. Exactly 9 o'clock. I came. Wallahi, these things, the nation needs to change. Ladies and gentlemen, I am happy to be your chair, and thank you very much, and good morning.
Thank you very much. On that note, viva people, viva! Viva people, viva! Oh, we are calling to action. I think Prof has called us to action, so we must respond. So, viva people, viva! You respond viva. If it's not loud enough, we won't continue. Viva people, viva! Viva people, viva! Okay, thank you very much, Prof. That was really inspiring. We must take action. We need to look at where our monies are going. Food sovereignty touches on everybody, rich, poor, children, old, everybody. So that was really sobering, and thank you very much. Before I go on, I would want to correct the introduction for Prof. John Kuwanu. He's not the Vice Chancellor, but the Pro-Vice Chancellor for UNAIR. Thank you very much. And I want to also welcome to our presence Prof. Eric Nyako Sampson, the VC for University for Environment and Sustainable Development. Sir, you're welcome. As we go on, I would want to acknowledge our ActionAid colleagues who are also seated. We are available to give you all the support you need to make your stay here comfortable. And a few housekeeping rules. I think if you want to use the washroom, it's just right down the corner here to the last door to your left, and then you'll be okay. Thank you very much for that. As we go on, and Prof mentioned confusion. And when you listen to the airwaves this morning, it's more than confusion. It's chaotic. Galamsey menace, demonstrations. And the question I ask myself in all this, we have not spoken about food security in there. Yes, water is important to our survival, but if food is equally important, then we must talk about food and how Galamsey also affects us. It affects everything around us. And we are talking about industrial agriculture nowadays. How is that going to support us? When chemicals are being used to destroy the land to get gold, and chemicals are again being used to destroy the land for food. Everything is being poisoned. So I think that is something we need to really talk about as well. So to move on, I would want to call on my country director, Mr. John Unko, to give us his opening address. Can we welcome him with a round of applause?
Thank you so much. I believe, let me first and foremost say all protocol observed, but it's imperative to take note of the chairperson for this very important climate change conference. And from the look of things, we are set on to serious business, given the chairman's welcome address. I am honored, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome you to this very critical National Climate Change Conference in Ghana. The conference themed Shifting Finance from Fossil Fuels and Industrial Agriculture to Promoting Food Sovereignty through Agroecology and Indigenous Seed and Code directly addresses our urgent challenges while highlighting solutions within our reach. This year's conference is particularly significant as it builds on our work or the work of Action Aid's Ghana's Country Strategy Paper 7, particularly under one of our strongest pillars, green economy and secure livelihoods. Over the years, Honorable Chairperson, we have made substantial strides in supporting sustainable agriculture practices, promoting environmental justice, and ensuring sustainable livelihoods for marginalized communities in Ghana and beyond. Today, ladies and gentlemen, our discussions will continue this work, and it is an essential part of Action Aid's Fund the Future Climate Justice campaign, which amplifies our call for a just transition to green economy that serves the need of the people and the planet. Today, we find ourselves at the crossroads of Ghana's development. The destructive impact of climate change are increasingly evident, with the ongoing droughts in the northern part of Ghana serving as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of our agricultural systems. The drought has affected over 2 million people in northern Ghana, namely in the northern, upper east, upper west regions. And that also includes the savannah in some respects, threatening food security and livelihoods. In the upper west region, ladies and gentlemen, the response, particularly of government in all the regions, has been significant. First, government has realized that there is a need to take action on the devastating climate change effects, particularly in Ghana. Second, and regarding the drought or the spell in the northern Ghana, government committed 8 billion, or government has indicated that it will cost the government 8 billion Ghana cedis to address comprehensively the drought in northern Ghana through its mitigation strategy. This includes the introduction of drought-resistant crops, promoting climate-smart agriculture practices, and the Northern Ghana Irrigation Project, which aims to provide sustainable water management solutions for farmers. However, the scale of the problem underscores the need for a comprehensive rethinking of how we finance and support climate resilience, especially for smallholder farmers who are severely impacted. Yet, the climate crisis is not an inescapable catastrophe. It results from our choices, particularly concerning how we finance development, agriculture, and energy. Chairperson, the significance of today's theme is underscored by ActionAid's flagship reports. Our 2023 report, How the Finance Flows, the bank's fueling climate crisis, exposed the staggering amount of finance being channeled by global banks into fossil fuels and industrial agriculture. Thus, industries that exacerbate climate change while undermining the livelihoods of millions of smallholder farmers. The 2024 report is a follow-up report themed How the Finance Flows, Corporate Capture of Public Finance Fueling the Climate Change Crisis in the Global South, unquote. This report shines light on how public finance is being co-opted by corporate entities or corporate interests, prioritizing destructive industries over sustainable, people-centered solutions such as agroecology. These reports make one thing clear: calling for a fundamental shift in financing climate-destructive industries as an urgent need. Let me take that again. These reports make one thing clear: calling for a fundamental shift in financing is urgently needed by not only the government of Ghana, but many in the global system. We must redirect financial resources towards practices that promote food sovereignty. Whilst establishing sustainable agricultural systems and safeguarding the dignity and rights of smallholder farmers. Chairperson, agroecology and indigenous seed development is also at the heart of the discussion around food sovereignty and climate change. Agroecology is more than a farming method. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a holistic system that works harmoniously with nature, regenerating the soils, conserving water systems, nurturing biodiversity, and ensuring that farmers can produce healthy in a culturally relevant food system. Agroecology increases resilience to climate impacts and provides long-term food security, especially empowering smallholder farmers and women especially who have been custodians of traditional farming knowledge over the generations. Indigenous seed development, ladies and gentlemen, is very, very equally essential. These seeds are naturally adapted to our local climate and ecosystems, making them more climate resilient to weather events, such as droughts, which we are currently facing. Indigenous seeds carries, I'll take that again. Indigenous seeds carry centuries of knowledge passed down through generations by supporting indigenous seed systems. We preserve biodiversity, safeguard food sovereignty, and protect farmers from control of multinational corporations that dominate the global seed market. Promoting food sovereignty through agroecology and indigenous seed development is not just an environmental necessity, but a matter of social justice. Ladies and gentlemen, food sovereignty gives communities control over their food systems, shielding them from the dominance of multinational corporations that push industrial seeds and chemical inputs. It empowers farmers to determine what, how, and for whom they grow food based on the needs rather than corporate profits. Chairperson, at ActionAid Ghana, we are fully committed to driving this transformation. We have witnessed at first hand the power of agroecology and indigenous seed development in our community work. Our 2024 climate justice initiatives, including our climate justice initiatives, including the April digital mobilizations and our ongoing 3,000 signature campaign, demonstrate the collective resolve of Ghanaians to demand accountability from those who control the flow of finances. Together with smallholder farmers, women, the youth, we call for climate finance to support ecological practices and indigenous seed development. Chairperson, you may at this juncture realize that ActionAid and its partners are emphasizing climate resilient sustainable agriculture, and the report basically does that. This affirms what we have just heard from the opening remarks of our chairperson. The findings of the 2024 flagship report also builds on the 2023 report. In 2023, we uncovered how the private financial institutions bankroll fossil fuels and industrial agriculture. This year, ladies and gentlemen, we reveal how corporate interests similarly promote or capture public finance. Both reports underscore the urgent need for a radical reform in global financial systems that continue to funnel or channel resources into fossil fuels and industrial agriculture to agroecology or sustainable farming systems. We must shift the flow of the finance to to confront climate crisis and secure or promote food sovereignty. Public and private financial resources must be channeled to practices like agroecology that build on climate resilience, protect biodiversity, and empower communities to remain resilient. In line with ActionAid's Global Week for Climate Justice, ActionAid Ghana calls for financial institutions to stop funding fossil fuel projects driving the climate crisis. May I invite you to join us in this crucial fight by signing the petition demanding that banks stop financing destruction and start funding climate resilient, sustainable, people-led agricultural solutions. Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, the path to sustainable future is clear. It prioritizes food sovereignty over corporate control, agroecology over agriculture, and community resilience over profits. Together, we can shift the flow of finance, protect our communities, ensure a secure future, prioritizing justice and sustainability for all. Let us in today's conference serve as a catalyst for bold action, for transformative action, building partnerships, and a renewed commitment to support calls for climate justice. Ladies and gentlemen, I take this opportunity once again to welcome all of you to this conference, and I wish you a very fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CD. So the hashtag is Fix the Finance, hashtag Community Resilience over Profits. Let's think about the people instead of the profits that we are getting. We are calling on the banks, invest in agroecology instead of the fossil fuels, and that will take us a long way. Thank you very much, CD, for that inspiring message. Before I go on, I think CD mentioned that at the tail end, the need for partnerships. This work cannot be done alone. We can't, as ActionAid, as individuals, SECORD, as the universities, we can't do it alone. We need partnerships. And ActionAid, we believe in that. We believe in building movements. We believe in partnerships with our other CSOs. So on this note, I would want to call on our partners who have honored our invitation to give us some solidarity message. And when the board chair comes, we'll also take his speech. So I would want to, where we have World Vision here, ASAP, and Plan. But before then, I would want to call on our investees, the Vice Chancellor for UESD, to give us a solidarity message. Where's the mic? The mic.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a teacher, and there's a story of this teacher who went to class one morning and asked the students or class, when I give you a surprise quiz, what will I get? I hear the student said you get surprise answers. I wasn't there. So I have been given a surprise quiz. So I will give a surprise answer. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me much pleasure to be here. As our partners, the ActionAid is our partners, and our partnership is based on the mandate of our university, the University of Environment and Sustainable Development, and it's meant to make the world a better place. I was in the conference last year. It was a very well-attended and highly placed conference, which I hope we are carrying on what we need to carry on. For us as a university, we are committed to activities of ActionAid, and in our mandate, we are supposed to ensure that the environment for living and for existence is key. And one of the things I see about us is as we work on the environment, the issue of what is in the environment for us in Agrec. So how can we get food, as my sister said earlier, how can we get food to feed ourselves and to sell to develop the country whilst we destroy the water and the land spaces that we have? And so for us as a university, issues on climate change, climate justice, and all that, we are very well positioned in that. And for us, again, is the fact that if these are not there, the world is not there. So what do we do as a university, as a research institution? And I'm happy that we were included in the discussion. One of my colleagues is here. He will do justice to the discussion, I know. We are doing things on water development, water research, and all that. How do all these feed into the bigger picture of climate change? And so we are happy to be here to say that when water and land are polluted, how can we do whatever we want to do? What type of ecology will we get to live on that will feed us, help us to protect our environment, and then leave that for the future if we talk about sustainable development? And I was happy when VC of UDS talked about the children. If you are looking at the children, you are looking at sustainable development. What do we leave for them? And so as researchers, when we meet practitioners, you know what goes into it. Once again, I'm happy to be here and committed to participate in the conference and get everything that is out done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And all too soon, the substantive MC is here. So I'll finish with the solidarity messages, and then I'll hand over to him. So I want to call on the Vice Chancellor for UNAIR. Sorry, the Pro-Vice Chancellor. Prof, we need to beat Justin. Sorry about that.
Good morning to all of you. I bring you special greetings from the Vice Chancellor, Professor Elvis Asarbediakon, and the entire management of the university and the council of the university this morning. We are very pleased to be invited to this important program, and I'm here to represent my Vice Chancellor. So anything I'm doing instead of the Vice Chancellor. So we are here. ActionAid is our partner, and we have been partners for long. And we are doing great things together with ActionAid, and we believe that with the expansion of the partnership to UUSD and the UDS and other organizations, the fight for climate justice will go far. We are in it together because we are part of the environment. We live in the environment, and we cannot do without the environment. And so anything that is hampering our health, food security, food sovereignty, and the entire food system is something that we must ensure that we fight against and ensure that things work properly, things are done right, and environment is protected sustainably for the generations to come. Once again, I'd like to say that we are pleased to be here. I'm here together with Dr. Kojo Jesse Santo, who will be part of the panel discussion on indigenous seed development. And later on, opportunity has been given to the Vice Chancellor to give a speech on promoting renewable energy for food sovereignty. We'll look at that tomorrow. But today, we will be part of the whole discussion and will fully participate in everything that is done here. Once again, on behalf of the Vice Chancellor and Council of the University and entire management, I wish to thank the board and the management of ActionAid for inviting us this important program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Kouanu, Pro Vice Chancellor for UNER. I would want to call on the Executive Director for SICOT to come and also give us his message. Thank you.
Hello. Viva ActionAid, viva. Viva. Viva ActionAid, viva. Viva. ActionAid, viva. Viva. Thank you. I think that is the war cry for action. And I think listening to the welcome address from the chair and listening to the country director, I think we're all mobilized into action. But I see more strongly our role. By the way, I come from a Center for Indigenous Knowledge and Organizational Development, SICOT, who is a partner of ActionAid. And I think this partnership has been long. And when I hear from the CD, I remember in the action in the early 90s, when we went to war together in support of small farmers against the legalization of GM, agroecology. I know we had a war, and we really went on that for war. Went on a war front, and I remember we mobilized farmers from all over Ghana to Accra to fight against the agroecology. And when I listen to him today, I think that war is already on. When I hear the call for a green economy and a call for a shift of finance to agroecology, I think the war is still on. And I want to pledge the continued support of SICOT and other colleague organizations that have been partnering with ActionAid that would continue to support and to work together until we're able to shift the finance from industrial agriculture to agroecology. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Before I mention the next person, who knows paposhito? That small pepper that had that scent. I'm looking for that one. I don't know where I can find it in Ghana again. And that is what we are talking about today. Our seeds are getting missing. very soon, by the time my daughter comes up, I guess she wouldn't even see Dawa Dawa again because it's all being cut off. Thank you. So on that note, World Vision at the center of children, I'll call on you to give us your, thank you.
Good morning to you all. Yeah, my name is Maxwell Ahmedi, the Food Security and Resilience Technical Program Manager representing World Vision. We are happy to be here as a development partner, as this very important conference touches on critical issues that has to do with climate justice, food systems, talking about food sovereignty, and talking about indigenous seed development. Because these issues play a critical role when it comes to our strategy in ensuring that we are able to build resilient communities and resilient economy for this country. From World Vision, we believe that our vision for every child is that they should have life in all its fullness. And talking about life in all its fullness, when these resources are depleted or these resources are destroyed, then we no longer have any sustainable livelihood that will be able to take care of these children. These children and this generation have not committed any offense. It is not fair for them to be bearing consequences and actions of things that they have not done. And so we are happy to be part of this conference, and we pledge our support to be part of this movement to ensure that we create a better world for a better people, so that the children that are out there, their households, their communities are able to have a better environment to live. Thank you.
Future generations need a better community to live in, and that is very true. So I would call on ASAP. ASAP. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ilyasu Ali. I'm the policy lead for Minerals and Mining Policy at the Africa Center for Energy Policy. And I bring you warm felicitations from my executive director, Mr. Benjamin Boache, and also the policy lead for climate change and energy transition, Dr. Charles Jemfi Ofori. I wanted to start with a little historical anecdote that borders on the theme of this conference. So please allow me just a few moments to recount this. Fumes aside, the fight to mainstream the harm from smoking tobacco, and this is an anecdote that is usually termed the twin faces of big tobacco and big oil. So the harm to mainstream, the fight to mainstream the harm from smoking tobacco is similar to the ensuing conversations around climate change. If you admonished the public in the early 1950s to give up a Lucy on the grounds that smoking causes cancer, I'm sure you would be standing trials for causing nuisance alarms. Try it on a smoker and you may walk away with a cigarette burn. While the science at the time was conclusive on the causative relationship between smoking and cancer deaths, the smoker and the general populace were skeptical, and blamelessly so. The science conflicted with the commercial interests of the tobacco industry, steering what would become the grandest, most successful public deception campaign, a big tobacco conspiracy that leveraged junk science and PR to portray smoking as harmless. Eventually, the science won, and in May 2003, the World Health Assembly adopted the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, otherwise called the WHO FCTC. So when you see boulders 10 warnings such as smoking kills on the back of shiny cigarette packs, it is a WHO FCTC dictating action. Perhaps too little, too late an effort. Today, some 1 billion people are still hooked to the pipe, nearly 80% of whom live in low and middle income countries, regions such as Africa. 8 million of these smokers die annually. The cost of pseudoscience denial and delay tactics in the face of scientific evidence is fatal. This anecdote carries bitter lessons from the tobacco industry, which bears cautionary notes for us in terms of the urgency needed to plug the huge flows of funds to the fossil fuel industry, or else, just like big tobacco, we risk a big oil disaster. This time, not deaths from cancer, but deaths from hunger. I don't think it is in my person to really recount all the food and agriculture organization statistics on this. All I would say is that on behalf of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, I would like to commend Action Aid and partners for the timely convening of this crucial conference, and I hope that the discussions and action points from here will drive reforms for a climate resilient and food secure future for Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ASEP, and for that historical anecdote. I had actually never thought of it in that sense, so it's food for thought on the effects of climate change on us. We need to heed the scientific evidence that we have on ground. Let's fix the finance. On that note, I think the last but not the least is Plan Ghana, right?
Good morning to you all. I'm Douglas Nyaba. I work in the Northern Region in the Plan Office. I'm the project coordinator. I bring you greetings from my country director in the person of Aunt Constance Chona. In the place I'm coming from, when the elders have spoken, the young only need to take action. When the people who have trained you have spoken, you need to take action. Mr. Chairman, that's my prof. I went to that school. So he has spoken. What we need to do is to take action. But because I am representing an organization, I have to make a point. Action 8, we want to be part of the action. That is my message. And that is the message they have asked me to come and deliver. We want to be part of the actions. We are in all the regions in Ghana. So we want to be part of the action. Thank you very much. We will be here today and tomorrow. But what I want to add is that I'm getting emotional. We from the north, if you leave Kwalugu, you will see black galamsey. I don't know whether some of you have seen it. That is charcoal. The youth these days don't want to farm. They want to cut the trees and mine black gold. So we are having a twin catastrophe. The yellow galamsey and the black galamsey. Then when you come to the south, the yellow galamsey is rampant. So we are here for the action. Less talking, more action. Thank you very much. Yeah.
On that note, it's emotional for everybody. I think when Prof. Alaston was talking, he mentioned about land degradation. When you are going from Savulugu, Tamale out of Savulugu, there used to be this vast array of shea trees. So beautiful, you think it was even planted intentionally. But today, when you pass there, it's full of buildings. They've all been cut down. Those of us who try to walk up the mountains of Ibri, I tell you, in the next 2 years, you wouldn't see that lush, beautiful greenery as you climb. It's being cut down for either agriculture, industrial agriculture, or for buildings. Vast lands are being taken over for industrial agriculture. But I ask, does Ghana need agroecology or we need industrial agriculture? Is Ghana food insecure when about half of the harvest for the rainy season goes to waste? What does Ghana need? We need to rethink how are our banks fueling these crises? Are they free? How many smallholder women are able to get loans for their farms, yet they are able to fund fossil fuels? So hashtag fix the finance. Viva Action Aid, viva! Oh, viva Action Aid, viva! Okay, on that note, I think we've ended our tea break. And thank you very much for having me. After tea break, Joshua, the official MC, will take over. Thank you very much.
glad to be here this morning talking about one thing that is very critical to all of us, one thing that really borders on our survival as human beings. And I'm more excited because we have a group of individuals from diverse backgrounds gathered here today. And for today and tomorrow, we'll be looking at very, very important issues. And so for you being part of this program, I'd like you to give yourself a wonderful round of applause. Please clap for yourself. You deserve it so much. And you are the VVIP here this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kojo Mensah. And like I said, it's an honor being here. Thanks also to the Action Aid team. I know they have not slept in about 1 week trying to put this together. So please let's appreciate the Action Aid Ghana team, led by my boss, Mr. John Nko. And shortly we'll be getting to the presentation of the papers. And so we would be getting into that. And then there would be a session where you would get to ask questions, contributions based on the papers that are presented this morning. And then, so we have 2 presentations, then we'll go for lunch break and come back and then have the panel discussion. I hope that's okay by all of you. Great. So we will be shortly inviting the country director, Mr. John Nko, to give us the paper. But before we do that, I would like us to have a little exercise. A very, very little exercise. Some of us have been sitting all morning, and so just a little warm-up exercise, and also to test our abilities to, make sure that the right information goes out there. So I wouldn't want just 5 volunteers here for me, just 5 people. You won't do anything, just 5 volunteers. Yes, okay, 5 volunteers. Yes, please let's clap for them. You see, if I had said I want 5 people to give $10,000 to, all of us would have been here by now. So just 5 volunteers. 1, 2, 3. Yes, 2 more. Just 2 more. Just 2 more. Okay. I thought my brother from City FM was also part. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Just 1 more. 5. Aha. Great. So this is going to be the exercise. You are going to whisper something to her. She will whisper it to the next person, whisper to the next person. Then we'll find out if what we get at the end is what we started with. I hope that is okay. It's a whisper. Don't scream, don't scream. So what did you hear? How are you? What did he start with? God bless you ended up as how are you? Oh yes, we started with God bless you. It ended at how are you? So where did the chain break? At which point? So madam, what did you hear? So you heard how are you? So you see how easily the chain broke from the beginning. God bless you turned to how are you? Let's try another round. This time around from the other side. Hey, it is supposed to be a whisper. Last person. Sweetheart, what did you hear? How is the morning? Okay. How did it start? The climate is dying became how is the morning? It shocked you? Do you get it? Do you get it? But that is how sometimes communication works. So the message starts, but by the time it gets to the end user, it is completely distorted. Please, let's clap for them as they take their seats. Thank you so much. I'm sure you're asking yourself, so who did what? Who didn't hear? What is happening? But that's the beauty of it. So this morning, we are talking about funding for fossil fuels as well as industrial agriculture and the impact that is having on agroecology. Interestingly, yesterday on my radio show, I was having a conversation with an agroeconomist, and he was telling me that at first we used to say in the coming years, we would have issues with food in this country. As it stands now, we are looking at just next year. If we do not change practices this year, we will suffer gravely. And he asked a question earlier, Eugenia, please, let's start for Eugenia, by the way. She held the fort for me. She said that she's looking for Kpakposhito seed, and she doesn't know what will happen in the coming years, where we are not going to even have seed for Kpakposhito. The agroeconomist I was speaking to last night also asked me about Akwele Wabi. How many of you know Akwele Wabi? You don't know Akwele Wabi, the red pepper, the long one. Now our Chinese friends are producing that, and we can't farm that here because most of our indigenous seeds are quickly going extinct, and it's because of how we are treating our planet. We are capitalizing on money compared to our survival, and that's why we are where we are. So ladies and gentlemen, it is very important that we have these conversations here, and so without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. John Nko, my boss, to give us the presentation of his paper. Okay, we'll be waiting for Mr. John Nko. He will join us pretty soon. So as and when he comes, we'll just zoom into that. But I'd like to acknowledge a few people here. And before then, we'll also take a few solidarity messages as we await our boss. And so we have the Agroecology movement. Do we have Agroecology movement here? We'll take a solidarity message from you. Please, let's welcome Agroecology movement. Or the one to give the solidarity message is not here yet. Right. Okay, so then let's do the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. We'll take a word from the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. Please, do we have a rep from the EPA to give us that solidarity message? Okay. What about the Forestry Commission? The Forestry Commission. Right, please, let's welcome him.
Thank you very much, and all protocols observed, I want to write on that. The Forestry Commission, we are pleased to be part of this important discussion. And looking at the time that we are in, the forest is everything. As they say, if the last tree dies, the last man dies as well. And we think that agroecology is something that collaboratively, the Forestry Commission, as well as the agricultural sector, we can put efforts together to see how best we can support the initiatives that is ongoing. So in this regard, I bring you greetings from the Chief Executive, who would have liked to be here in person and want to say that they support every initiative, every intervention that the Forestry Commission can support. Together with Action Aid, we are willing to provide that technical and financial support in addition. So we want to say thank you, and we'll be part of this discussion till tomorrow. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir. Please, let's appreciate him one more time. So I would also like to once again introduce some of our dignitaries and recognize them again. I know that has already been done, but please let's appreciate the chair for this particular occasion, the VC of UDS, Professor Seidu Al-Hassan. Please let's appreciate him one more time. Also the Executive Director of CCORD, Bernard Guri. Please let's appreciate him. The Pro VC of UNER, Professor John Kuwonu. Prof, thank you so much. The VC of the University of Environment and Sustainable Development, Professor Eric Nyako Samson. Please, let's appreciate him. And now let's welcome the Country Director for Action Aid Ghana, Mr. John Nko.
All right. Thank you. Don't say John again. Just say Viva Action Aid, Viva. I remember chairperson was telling me that, John, can you spell what you call Viva? Well, you say we call it Viva. Chairperson, am I correct? Viva. Okay, so that's fine. It's just a call for action. And because we are one of the recognized global campaign organizations, we technically we always call ourselves to order, call our movements to order. And so when you hear that, it's just a Spanish word that signals a call to order. So that is it. My task here is quite simple, just to give you an overview of the report that we have developed this year. From my welcome address, you would have heard me give some background information in terms of the fact that Action Aid roots its work, its campaign work, on evidence in a way that ensures that whatever we stand for in the global system is not based on conjecture, but we are firmly rooted in terms of research that we do. And you know, ActionAid works through a lot of partnerships across the world, and more especially in about 42 countries that we are represented. So this research work is an extensive exercise that we have co-created. And as the outline suggests, we basically will just give you the top highlights and then zoom down on the critical recommendations that we are proffering as far as this research is concerned. I know that I have a lot of giants as it relates to research here, VCs, professors, and so on and so forth. And so this one is just CSO research. So you have to tone down and look at the climate change vulnerabilities that we are talking about. And so technically, this, I know most of you have seen this a lot, highlighting the difference between a climatically destroyed environment. Most of the time, from what we have been hearing so far since the morning, it's mostly people-led. You know, we do it ourselves. Somebody said there were a lot of shade trees when you are traveling from the Savilgui area to Tamale. These days, you can see through what is happening, human activities. Somebody spoke about, you know, the black gold. Somebody talked about the yellow gold. All that have ramifications. And I think that the chairperson for this meeting situated our discussion in the right direction by talking about the fact that we need a lot more commitment and political will to be able to tackle the cascading, catastrophic, devastating climate change that is eclipsing the world. I think in the European areas, this is becoming a lot more well known. How do we work together to popularize and call to action? So this research is just basically geared towards that. Can we move? And so, as I said, the research is looking at how we redirect private funding, which is apparently reaching the highest level. In fact, the research was staggering because we realized that a lot more, apart from the fact that governments are, you know, developing or formulating policy frameworks that allow for multinational organizations to come in, mostly on the argument of, you know, economic growth, and mostly on the argument of the trickle-down effect, creating employment. At the end of the day, if you look at what is happening, governments are losing and the people are losing more than what multinational organizations, particularly that are leading the climate destruction, do. And so this research advocates that we need to find a way of redirecting public funds in a way that ensure sustainability. And when we talk about sustainability, we are talking about the planet. All eyes are on COP29. I know governments across the world, civil society organizations are preparing for Baku. Incidentally, it nearly sounded like my hometown. But this one, we are going to talk about climate change in the next conference of parties in Azerbaijan. There are a lot of high calls. And so we are looking at how this report or research report would continue to enhance discussions towards COP29. For example, in the last COP, you would have heard about the loss and damage which was adopted in COP28. ActionAid has been one of the critical lead organizations that started talking about it. And like my senior brother Ben spoke about, of CICOD, we usually have the muscle. After that one, we usually have the muscle to tackle areas that are not seen as fashionable, but are critical to sustainable development. And so when we started talking about loss and damage, many countries, many development organizations, many stakeholders thought that we were coming out of the blue. But the argument was basically simple. If you agree with the system that they are lead polluters, the lead polluters must compensate for those who do not contribute significantly to the pollution or climate change effects to be able to adapt to the consequences of climate change. And so the loss and damage was adopted. This time round, we are looking at how countries are losing a lot more public funds under the guise of incentives to multinational organizations that are mostly contributing to fossil fuel exploration and contributing towards climate change events because of the increased hydrocarbon production that is going on. And so this report is re-evaluating government priorities, zooming down on the lead investors in the fossil fuel, sector, and that is contributing towards, climate change, biodiversity loss, and social inequalities. Because as I pointed out, the argument is always that you create employment. But employment to what effect? If you, for example, look at Ghana's unemployment situation, we have heard and we have seen the numbers that unemployment is increasing, even in the face of this huge investment in the fossil fuel exploration. And so this research at the end of the day is basically aligning with people more than profits to say sustainable agriculture, agroecology, if you like, organic farming is the way to go because agriculture is the mainstay of Ghana's economy. And so the more and more you invest in sustainable agriculture, the more and more you are going to contribute towards not only biodiversity conservation, but even increasing employment. At the end of the day, we are even looking at gender responsive, budgeting and investment. And so I spoke about that in the welcome address. And so this is the background. And so the report will be looking more in terms of tracing the fund flows, looking at how corporates, are capturing public finance investment and zooming down to look at the consequences thereof to employment and development, particularly in the global south. And so ActionAid and its allies, as I've said, are seeking to build momentum and pressure on decision makers, particularly this year, about the ever-increasing consequences of climate change on communities on the global south, if you like, frontline communities. And so the report is basically looking at that. And we have been working on that consistently. We spoke about the 2023 research report on funding the future, and we looked and identified some banks that have been consistently investing heavily in fossil fuel or hydrocarbon production, and looking at also the public grants that they provide to countries suffering climate change vulnerabilities to be able to address the impacts on their people. So, for example, in that report that has supported, when the chairperson was talking, I thought he had read our 2023 report, where the research pointed out that about 92% of countries that are facing climate change vulnerabilities are also cascading into debt crisis. In that report, we demonstrated the critical link between countries suffering climate change effects and then their debt overhang. And you would see that not only that, countries like Mozambique, countries like Kenya, countries like Tanzania, you could see how climate change effects have brought those countries to their knees. And the more and more you are suffering from floods, suffering from droughts, suffering from activities of galamsey, the more and more you have to invest as a country in terms of reclaiming the lands, in terms of providing livelihoods, in terms of even the health consequences on the people. And so you ask yourself, is it worth it for us to continue investing in fossil fuel exploration and production rather than investing in climate resilient sustainable agriculture? We have been arguing consistently with our partners over the years that government need to use its policy instrumentality to direct resources towards climate change resilient agriculture and then create a lot more employment. And so the call is publicly very clear that destructive private and public money flows are fueling the climate crisis. And so as we get along, we'll be seeing that. And so Fund the Future campaign since 2023. Before that, we had a lot of series of research reports. And so at our global campaign, we have been pressurizing banks such as the HSBC and other related banks in the international system to look at that. There has been a lot of consequences and results on that. Some of the banks, have been reviewing their financial procedures and making sure that they are bringing a lot more climate change discussions in the banks and their financial instruments. Secondly, they are also making a lot more contribution in terms of reducing the impact of climate change on communities, particularly in terms of aid. But that is not enough. And so this research is a build-up for governments to stop financing industrial agriculture and fossil fuel corporations. And so I started talking about agroecology. In my welcome address, I took time to talk about what agroecology entails. It entails, safeguarding the future, safeguarding the earth. I remember when we were children, in those days, in northern Ghana, we hardly even knew what fertilizer was. And those of you who are of my age or beyond, you would appreciate what I'm talking more. Prior to the rainy season, the families had what we call kraals, where the cow dung and animal droppings, the young people, and even though I used to dread it so much, it was a very difficult job. I don't know whether I was a bit lazy, wanted school, but when it comes to rainy season, it was difficult because you have to cut all the organic manure and spread it on all the family farmlands. That is the time we had crops like the sorghum, very heavy. When they harvest them, the head looks very heavy. The cob of corn looks very heavy. And if you go far up to northernmost part of Ghana, Upper East, we have a crop called Nara, which was one of the early millets. And we have smallholder agriculture farmers here, smallholder women farmers. I see them nodding their heads from northern Ghana. Today, the production of Nara has gone down drastically. That, for me, was a very good example of agroecology at the very basic level. And year on year, the soil capacity was stronger. What do we see today? Very loose soils or very compacted soils because everybody is using traction. Tractors to plow. And that compacts the soil. It prevents soil aeration. And so when it rains, you see a lot of water running. That has contributed towards most of the challenges that we face today. Scaling up agroecology requires financial support. And for those of us who have been at the forefront of advocacy, year on year, if you look at my media interviews, we have been calling for government to redirect a lot more funding to food crop agriculture, which employs a lot more women in the agriculture value chains. So if you want to deal with inclusive agriculture development, you need to target the women. To what extent is government targeting the women? If you take planting for food and jobs, what is the level of targeting of women? I remember we did a gender analysis of that in terms of some of our projects. And we have been consistently calling on government to specially target women because they have special needs in the agriculture value chains. Agroecology, we argue, holds the key for sustainable development. Agroecological practices, including crop diversification, organic farming, agroforestry, can enhance resilience to climate change. And I think this point has been hammered more and more. We have been pushing and advocating for government to invest more in agroecology than invest more in industrial agriculture. Somebody might ask, as I'm always asking in interviews, John, but what you people are arguing about? We are not meeting our food security targets. We are not hitting our grain targets. If you look at the Americas, 3% are engaged in agriculture, and yet they are able to feed their people and send food. Why are you people putting stumbling blocks on our quest to industrialize and produce food? But the question is, to what cost? To what cost? Also listen to our argument. Our argument is that because the agriculture is the mainstay of Ghana's economy, the more and more you invest in targeting the majority of smallholder food crop farmers, you would surpass your food and grain targets. Secondly, you will be on the path of sustainability because in terms of the soil health, you'll be enhancing the soil capacity to be adaptive to the cultivation and promote food security and food sovereignty. And so that is the tracks of what ActionAid and its partners like you have been pushing. I remember we worked with University of Energy and Natural Resources under the leadership and direction of Professor John Kuonu to publish a lot more agroecology research. Prof, I remember the one I came to your university, which you delivered so well, and that is where we are looking at. And so these are examples of food crops that are basically grown from organic farming, from our farmers. And this presents a model. For example, if you go to advanced countries, I had the opportunity to study in America many years ago. One of the things that shocked me, was the fact that if you go to the grocery shops, like Walmart, cabbage produced organically costs more than cabbage produced with fertilizer. That was one of my cultural shocks, Mr. Chairperson. I got really shocked. When I said, really? And our farmers in Ghana, in northern Ghana, who use organic products to produce cabbage, when they send it to market, they rather get what? Lower prices. Because people say, oh, but your cabbage looks small. Oh, and you're fair. A cabbage mabu viela. Why do we do this to ourselves? And so, working under SICOT and some of the partners represented here, we have been unapologetically promoting what? Agroecology or organic farming or climate resilient sustainable agriculture as a model for government to look at it. We push for policies. Sorry, someone should help pick my phone because if it's 12, I set an alarm. Sorry about that. Thank you. And so that is what we push for. So if you look at the first part of planting for food and jobs, one of the things government responded that the partnership with SICOT, all of us were happy about, has been the fact that government extended the agriculture subsidy on chemical fertilizer to what? Compost or organic manure. So once we laud government and we clap for government, we say that government, that is a good step, but there's a lot more to be done. Increase investment into R&D on compost production so that farmers who have bought into agroecology can have manure and compost to buy. Gradually and systematically, in public policy, we call something incrementalism. We will grow towards what? Increasing adoption for compost and promote what? Food sovereignty. By that one, we have a lot more added advantages, promoted the health care of Ghanaians, and more importantly, we believe that if agroecology is well appreciated, adopted, or adapted, we can be seen exporting organic vegetables to the Sahelian regions, even to Europe. If our safety standards are well enhanced, our regulatory systems are well enhanced, you can be sure that government will rather see the real tangible effects of economic growth as compared to what we see today. All right. And so Citibank is one of the banks we targeted with our advocacy, and that is where I was reporting that some of them are reviewing their policies and redirecting a lot more support and reducing their investment into fossil fuel production. That is positive. You know, in Ghana, our popular Akan language, you say nipa ye adia or ye de osayeyi. So in as much as we laud the banks for the bold initiatives taken to support climate resilient, sustainable agriculture, we are calling on them to also decrease or prevent investment into fossil fuel production. It looks like a big call, but we think that with ambition, determination, and public policy, we will be able to address that. Look at the situation of galamsey in this country. To the extent that unions are getting involved in it, it means we have reached the highest level of destruction. And you know, Ghana Water Company Limited is complaining, and many people argue that in a number of years we may be importing water. We cannot sit for that to happen. And therefore, one of the critical calls is agroecology. Government, we call on you to look at that seriously. Stop the project and corporate financing of deforestation. If you go to a number of countries, we have what we call the land grabbing. I saw that with my eyes in Sierra Leone. When it started, I didn't know that Ghana will soon follow suit. Where you have multinational companies come in, you know, secure vast arable lands. In some cases, they move villages out of the lands, like we do for some galamsey in some of the communities, and then we engage in industrial agriculture. And you know what industrial agriculture entails? Chemicalization of the farms, weedicides, herbicides, sides. At the end of the day, science also points out, and I know research later on will be discussing all that, to the extent that our indigenous seed is getting less and less in vogue. Most of the indigenous seeds are getting lost. And the consequence of that, some of our indigenous foods are most likely to get lost in from 5 to 10 years' time. Is that what we want? Knowing that where we are, our climatic conditions, we are adapted. God knows why he placed us here. And so we need to be looking at that. We also, under this report, are bringing to the full scope of emissions, calling for, emissions to be lowered. We have to cut down emissions to real zero. When we go to the COPs, we set targets. We talk about emissions. If you look at the Paris Declaration and also the COPs, countries have been enjoined to be lowering their greenhouse emissions to about 1.5 degrees. How many countries are meeting it? There are a lot of incentives, including the carbon credits, including public grants. How are countries supporting regulatory systems and working towards that. We call on government to focus in promoting climate sustainable agriculture as a pathway in strengthening, our effort towards meeting the targets set up under the Paris declarations. In addition to that, we call on government to be more transparent. Transparency is at the bedrock of how effective our regulatory systems can be. We have regulatory systems for galamsey. What do we see today? That's a big question for all of us. How transparent are those institutions? How transparent are government accountable are government institutions? And so the research points out that if we do not strengthen the transparency aspects, how mining leases, for example, are accessed, who goes where to mine, are accessed, are in the public domain, the full glare of everybody, then we are going to have a lot more problems, including many mining firms mining in the forest reserves. We know that yes, the law exists. Many firms are operating legally. But how are regulatory systems holding them accountable? It's not even just only government, even the mining firms. How transparent and accountable are they? Multinational corporations working in large-scale plantations, how accountable are they in terms of their practices, labor practices, fair contracts, employment of women and girls? What are the conditions? And so we need to be looking at that. All that relates to what we call combating modern slavery, which is essential for our own development. If you look at Europe, the awareness around climate change has enhanced. We have political parties such as the Greens that have emerged. And what that means is that in countries in the global south, how are we building awareness, working in partnerships, in collaborative arrangements, in multi-stakeholder arrangements, to be able to bring pressure on our governments to invest a lot more in terms of sustainable agriculture, to enhance employment and our livelihoods. Governments must regulate the financial sector to ensure that fossil fuel and industrial agriculture and other harmful fossil fuel productions, investment in those areas are being mitigated. It should be seen being reduced in a way that supports sustainable agriculture so that we contribute towards reducing the hazardous drought effects. If you look at the drought spell in northern Ghana, it's a big headache for government. And for those of you who have been following government policy action, you would have realized that government has done estimates that about 2 or over 2 million people will be impacted on the drought spell in northern Ghana. Government has moved a step ahead to estimate how it will cost it to address or mitigate or cushion the effects of the drought to the people of northern Ghana. I think the estimate is about 8 billion. Out of that, government is thinking of ring fencing 500 million from our contingency fund. And we had a lot of debates that came up on that. What that means is that there's going to be a gap. How does government fill the gap? This relates to how we set the connection that climate change is fueling what? Debt crisis. Because government have to either go and borrow or do deficit financing to be able to cushion the effects in northern Ghana. How about if government was investing similar funding on sustainable agriculture? Then we will be regenerating the environment. Agroforestry will be producing a lot more trees. Smallholder women farmers will be engaged in woodlot production. Government, under the credit received, the grant provided for the planting, Green Ghana, is planting trees. How are the trees being sustained? That is a very good initiative. How are the trees being sustained? How is civil society supporting government in terms of auditing of the survival rates of these trees to ensure that the trees are safeguarded to grow? How are our forest reserves going to be what? Safeguarded. All these are areas that we are calling for government to finance or redirect funding from fossil fuels into renewable energy and just transitions. Is also a critical area that if you look at the numbers, if you read the research report, you would find that 677 billion US dollars goes into what? Exemptions. In terms of cash transfers, in terms of tax holidays, to multinational corporations and private entities, banks investing in fossil fuel agriculture. Apart from the huge profits they make, our tax holidays, which in our calculation serve as public finance that we are using to subsidize them, is being poured under the drain from where we sit. Conversely, if you compare that to the public grants that go into adaptation and climate mitigation, one of the critical complaints that working with the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable, Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, I hope I got the name correct, is that when it comes to mitigation, many donors, many countries in the international system are unable to fulfill commitments. And so if you are talking about renewable energy transition, government wants to promote solar energy in this country. You would have heard that government has started one in Kaleo, which was commissioned, one in Laura, one in Savilgu, which is being expanded. But what that means is that it entails a lot of huge capital investment. How does government raise that money? Where is the commitment to finance those projects? We argue that the more and more government cut back on some of these subsidies, some of these holidays and incentives to a private sector whose work is fueling fossil fuel exploration, those resources could go into just transitions, renewable energy transition, and agroecology. And so the picture there, you could see what is happening in northern Ghana. Look at the soil capacities, they are dwindling. Look at the food crops that we are having. What that means is that there's a lot of work for all of us to do. And so this conference is also to call on us to see how we can aggravate actions in terms of demanding accountable practices from government, in terms of how it's bringing its policy leverage to ensure that private organizations, private banks are rechanneling resources also to agroecology and sustainable agriculture. And so that is very, very important for us. Yes. How many more minutes do I have, Joshua? So I could be concluding. Oh, that's good. You are so generous. So 5 more minutes. And ladies and gentlemen, Chairperson, I think on this note I'll be concluding. And so what do we do now to reverse or prevent the damage? As I've been talking about, we need a transformational agroecology pathway and the promotion of indigenous seeds development. When we talk about indigenous seed, there was one time a board member in ActionAid raised a good point. He said, even the indigenous seed we have, how are we able to conserve that using technology? So from what we are saying, we are not just saying no to technology, but what we are saying is that what we have, how do we improve our seed? How do we conserve it? How do we enhance its shelf life? How do we propagate the utilization? How do we ensure that incentives or farmers are incentivized to be able to use our indigenous seeds? Because this is one way to ensure food security, to ensure agriculture security in this country and promote employment. For me, given the fact that the world is currently facing a rising unemployment situation, also means that pragmatic policy actions should be taken to ensure that we put our money where our noses are. I hope I got that right. The matter of agriculture sustainability and food security is very important. In the next 2 days, we'll be discussing and focusing on agroecology, renewable energy, indigenous seed, and food sovereignty through various papers and panel discussions. So this is setting the ground for us to build on that. Together, we can shift the finance to these areas. And so I know the media is here. We are calling on government to redirect financing, use the policy initiative to ensure that we are retooling, the agroecology subsector, promoting R&D in terms of compost production. Incentives should rather be channeled towards that. So companies that are in the employing young people, men and women, in terms of the production of compost, in terms of enhancing, access to that, should be encouraged. And so the use of incentives has to be carefully targeted, and all that adds up to the investment we are calling the agroecology subsector. And so papers will be really delivered to substantiate that. Together, we can shift all that. Let us seize this moment with boldness to call on government to really redirect, not only government, but as I said, the banks that we targeted, Citibank and the rest, HSBC, that have private capital, that are investing in the fossil fuel for profit maximization. We are saying that, yes, it's good to make profit, but we have to, optimize that as against people. And so, ending on the note of my chairperson for today, we should be looking at peace. And he is so very well, even on that, he was not academic. He was a CSO's person. I know he wears many caps. Breaking down peace into sustainable agriculture. And I like the aspect of sustainability, where you spoke about young people. We spoke about children are the future. If we continue to destroy our environment, what happens to the children that are yet unborn? If we continue to chemicalize our soils, reduce soil porosity, destroy the fauna and biodiversity in the soils, apart from the fact that we'll be chemicalizing even the food produce and endangering our health, but the soil health will be directly impacted, and that would lead to hazardous consequences for us. Because the more and more the soil loses its capacity, the more and more soil erosion is easy, the more and more we have water running, washing the soils into the rivers, and we see our rivers desilting, and we see most of the black gold where we are breaking down trees, deforesting, exposing our rivers. The rivers are getting vanquished. Many of the rivers that we used to swim in are getting lost. The water in sewerage is occasionally complaining about some of its water points that are not able to hold the water capacity for processing for us to drink. Ladies and gentlemen, we are heading towards a catastrophe, and Action Aid with the multi-stakeholders like you are humbly and persuasively calling on government to redirect funding into climate resilient, sustainable agriculture. We are working with partners. I know Action Aid is working with the Dutch Embassy, the Norwegian Embassy, Australian Embassy, to see how we can escalate discussion around this and build a multi-stakeholder with the youth at the forefront of leading this clarion call in advocacy for government to redirect funding to agroecology. Thank you very much.
Oh, please, let's appreciate John Nko. He says I shouldn't call him John again. It's now Viva Action Aid. Viva. Please, whenever I hear this man speak, the passion with which he speaks is something that I admire so much. And so it's not surprising that he was also born on the same day Osajifo was born, on the 21st of September. So please, let's celebrate him one more time. Yes. He was born on the same date as our Kwame Nkrumah. Yenya Kwame Nkrumah, no. And I'm really excited about that. Please, let's acknowledge some wonderful people who are also here with us this afternoon. We have reps from the Korean International Development Agency, KOICAL. Please, let's appreciate them. We also have reps from the National Biodiversity Authority here with us. Please, let's appreciate them as well. The National Development Planning Commission is also here with us this morning. The Royal Netherlands Embassy, we also have reps from there here. Please, let's appreciate them. We also have reps from the German Embassy here with us this afternoon. Please, let's appreciate them. And also reps from Urbanet. Please, let's give it up for all of them. I know it's been a long morning for us, and I can assure you that at exactly 1 p.m. we'll be having lunch, so please don't worry at all about that. In the meantime, you can sip on some water. Water is good, water is life, and it is everything. And we'll take our final paper, then we can have a short plenary session before we go for lunch this afternoon. And for the second paper, please let's welcome Inge Teniglo. She is from the Royal Netherlands Embassy. She is the Agricultural Counselor. Please, let's give it up for her.
Thank you. I think I want to start. It's Counselor for Agriculture, Food Security and Nature. I think it's, for this forum, very important that we also say food security and nature. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and fellow climate advocates, it's an honor to be here today at this forum. I think it's a very important forum to speak about indigenous seeds, because that's where I'm going to speak about. And the global crisis on climate, what is pushing us to rethink every aspect how we live and how we grow our food. We are gathered today to discuss climate change and partnerships within this space. And in my opinion, because I'm working on that, indigenous seed development is more important than ever. As I said, I'm the Agriculture and Nature Counselor for the Dutch Embassy. Previously, I worked in the Netherlands for the Dutch Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Food Security and Nature, and I was the focal point for farmers' rights in the International Treaty for Plant Genetic Resources. So when I came here in Ghana 1 year ago, of course, I wanted to work also with seeds. Our focus today is not only on securing seeds for tomorrow, but how to appropriate seed storage and distribution can serve as a vital adaptation strategy in the face of an unpredictable climate. We have an initiative as the Dutch Embassy. We have a pilot on the first community seed bank where we train farmers in situ, ex situ on the farm, where we bring farmers, researchers, international organizations, we bring them all together in, to work on a community seed bank. Hopefully there are more, but I know that the one that we are doing is the first one, like with a structure set up how we do it. I'm going to speak a bit more about that, but if you have any questions, I only want to speak for 5 minutes, and then I would like to receive a lot of questions on how we as Dutch Embassy work on seeds, both the formal and the informal seeds, how that work together. Like, I would like to have a bit of discussion and questions on that. But the project that I want to start with is the Adavso Pilot Community Seed Bank here in Ghana, what promotes the conservation of neglected and underutilized species, NUS or orphan crops, which has the potential to strengthen resilience of farming systems against the intensifying effects of climate change. So I think we all know the drought in the north and the extreme climate that we are facing today, the extreme weather events, floods, and the shifts in growing seasons, that is urging, it's pressing on the farmers. And the importance of agricultural biodiversity cannot be overstated. Nut crops, orphan crops, many of which have been cultivated for centuries by indigenous communities, farmers, they have like those unique traits, that DNA that makes them more resilient to climate change. They make them more resilient to the environment that they're growing in. And these unique traits, they are so important that we keep them here, in Ghana, and that we conserve them. Because they are the future. We need them to make sure that we have food security in the future. And by doing that, we also need to make sure that we have proper storage and the distribution of these seeds. Seed storage plays a crucial role in adaptation. So the use of climate-resistant storage solutions, like the community seeds banks, we ensuring that genetic diversity needed for the future food security is preserved. These seed banks safeguard seeds from climate-induced degradation, helping farmers restore damaged crops after extreme weather events. So what you saw, for example, in Mozambique, the flooding was so bad a few years ago. I cannot even remember how long that was, but it was a big discussion at the fora at the FAO in Rome. How are we going to, if you have that big of floods, how are you going to bring new seeds to the farmers? Are we losing all the crops that they were there with the unique traits? Then we know how important it is that we conserve them, that we have like a good system here in Ghana, in all the countries, that makes sure that if crises like that happens, that we have a backup plan, because we need them. And we cannot do that only with the formal seed sector. We have to have the crops that here are grown in Ghana also to replace. So what we are doing in the seed bank, what we are working with is we are bringing local farmers together with a school. So also the students learn how to work with indigenous seeds. They get the knowledge of healthy food from Ghana. And we are working with international institutions like SIAD and Biodiversity. And we want them all to strengthen their efforts to come at the best way how to move forward. And I'm more than happy to talk later about that. So equally important, besides the storage, is the distribution of these seeds. In regions facing rapid climate change, timely access to resilient seed varieties can mean the difference between a failed harvest and the one that sustains a community. Climate-resistant distribution networks ensure that diverse planting materials reach farmers when and where they are needed most. The Adauso seed bank model, supported by the organizations that I said before, is the testament of the power of decentralizing community-led initiatives in this regard. These partnerships do not only enhance seed conservation, but also strengthen the socio-economic fabric of farming communities. Through value addition activities, such as processing and marketing of local crops, because I also believe that we need to learn again to eat the crops that the country Ghana is providing us. I think we have a shift to more Western food or a lot of rice, but we have fonio, we have garden egg. I think that is still a lot in the diet, but still, like it's good to recognize and get that back more in the diet. We elaborate the role of nuts in local economies, providing both environmental and economically sustainability. So in conclusion, as we confront the growing threat of climate change, promoting indigenous seed development through appropriate storage and distribution is not just an agricultural necessity, but is also a cornerstone for climate adaptation. By safeguarding the genetic diversity of our crops, we empower communities to thrive in uncertain times, Let us continue to champion these initiatives through strong partnerships and innovative solutions that protect both our planet and the seeds for the future. Thank you.
Please, we can do better for Ingi. All right, so quickly, if there are concerns, there are questions, like she said, she's open to answering questions. She would like to have us engage with her on her presentation and the role of the Dutch Embassy, among others, and how they are also working to improve on food security. And it's interesting that the ministry she works with has food security as part of the name. Very, very interesting there. So please, if you have any questions, you can just put your hand up. We'll bring a microphone to you. All right, so Chairman, right. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. The questions will not only be us bombarding Inge with questions. We don't want to do that. So please, we have had so many presentations. John also made presentations. Others have also done their presentations. So any question based on that, and then we can spread it across and get responses from there. Unless, of course, your question is specific to a certain presenter, then you can pose the question. Other than that, all those who have presented will have the opportunity to pick those questions. So Inge, you can have a seat. I'll bring you a microphone as well, and then whenever the questions come to you, we'll come to you for responses. So we'll take the first batch of 3 questions. Yes, please. Your name, the agency you represent, and then you can flow with your question.
Thank you very much. My name is Kwame Afram Dinchra. I work with Ashinid, the Bono region. My question actually directly goes to the last presenter, and specifics on these seed banks concepts. I see it to be very innovative approach when it comes to conservation of these indigenous seeds, and in a way of maybe remaining resilient to this climate change and other things. You indicated that you have done a lot of pilots in Ghana, or you are working on them in Ghana. And how can we expand this? Is it possibility of joining partnership with ActionAid to expand the concept, especially within the communities that we were? Because we have started a similar approach, that if there is an avenue for us to collaborate and cross-learning, I think it would be good, especially for our smallholder women farmers to conserve these seeds. Is there a possibility for ActionAid to collaborate with you to expand this seed bank concept?
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, so any other question? Anyone with questions? Please, okay, you have the microphone, kindly. Your name, your agency you represent, and the question, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Adam Edusu, and I work for Ebanet. I also want to direct my question to the Dutch Embassy.
Okay.
And, I like the concept of the seed bank, as well as the community seed that they are trying to develop. It is very, very important as one of the strategies towards the indigenous seed development.
Okay.
But what we also want to share is that I think one of the reasons why indigenous seed production is failing is because of the yield. The yields are very, very low. And now our fight towards food security and also improving farmers' livelihood, also how do we also support them to increase yield, sell and make some money, to also improve upon their life. So I don't know what are your strategies towards improving the yield in terms of engaging our research institutions, our crop research institutions, to improve upon the yield of indigenous, because farmers also want to increase their income. They will not continue to use indigenous if the yields are failing. If the yields are not improving, they will stop. They will go in for the improved seeds that we are talking. I want to hear, what you are doing towards that one.
Okay, so okay, right, the microphone right there. Please, your name, your agency, and also your question.
Thank you so much. My name is Alasan Andani. I work with UDS. My concern is on the first presentation from Action 8. Yeah, so civil society...
Please, if you can just swap the microphones. I think the other microphone is louder so that we can hear him more clearly. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Civil society organizations are pushing for redirection of funding on agriculture. That's a great job. My suggestion probably might be a long-term one. If our focus could also be shifted to the training institutions, because in any moving vehicle, the direction of the vehicle depends on the psyche of the driver and the mindset. So if our human resource is well trained towards this direction, because in future there will be the policy makers, there will be the implementers of policy and those things. For example, UDS has started a program right from the first degree to graduate level on sustainable agriculture and food systems. Our challenge is funding. So if some of the funding could be shifted to these training institutions, I think in the long run, we would achieve our goal.
Right. Thank you very much. So the last one would be to ActionAid, but the first two are to you directly, Ingi. The question on collaboration and also the yield of indigenous seeds, which is the reason why most farmers are not preferring the others.
Yes, thank you. About the first one, yes, of course we can collaborate. Everything is open. If this topic, all the information I have, I can share. We are working with NAS Ghana, NAS Network Ghana. Even if you want, or if others are also interested, I can give a presentation specifically on what we did. It was a 3-year program. So first we did an assessment of what is the potential of the indigenous seeds here in Ghana. The second year we built the structure of the seed bank, and the third year we started the training. And with the training, it's also the exit strategy, because the community needs to do it themselves. It's not us that should do it. Unfortunately, I don't have any budget anymore, so I was hoping, because you said Germany and Korea, and there were others here, so I think we should work all together and bring the information together to open as much as of those community seed banks with the best practices, because I think we can also learn from others on this topic. So that's my first. The second, yes, that's also a good question. I always say farmers have the right to buy or to get the right seeds fit for their use. Good seeds for their use. So that means also quality seeds. At this moment, we are doing a seed sector assessment together with the government and with Wageningen University, and we are looking at both the formal and the informal seed sector, what is going on here in Ghana and where should we improve on. So that's both sectors. I believe there's space for both, and we should strengthen both to get good seeds fit for the use of the farmer. And it's on the farmer what seeds they want to buy, but we have to support. Also, we should not forget the indigenous seeds, and that's often done. So yeah, the low yield is also one of those aspects in the seed sector assessment. We are going to look at the regulation. We are going to look at how can we support, for example, Ghanaian local seed breeders to what is the quality of what they are bringing on the market? How is the system of the government to support them, or how can they register so also that they have the right to do that? So it's only an assessment, and also that one will be public, and I expect that one in January, February, and also for that a call on everybody to see what we can do afterwards, how we can strengthen the seed sector here in Ghana with good seeds.
All right, thank you. And John, the last one has to do with UDS, the programs they've outlined, but unfortunately, the major hurdle is funding. So it was a suggestion from our brother from UDS. He's talked about the fact that, well, they have programs in place that would boost sustainable agriculture, among others. Unfortunately, funding has become an issue in terms of bringing people up to follow in that stead.
Capacity building of people who are showing interest in sustainable agriculture. Is that correct?
Right.
Oh, okay. That's the Action Aid, as part of its partnership framework, is working. I hope the mic is.
Yes.
Working with
can we please
universities, and you can see the universities ably represented by the highest authorities here. So we have the VC of University for Sustainable Environment and Sustainable Development. We have our chairperson from the UDS. We have the Pro VC from the UNER. That is a demonstration of what we are doing. Our ultimate objectives is also to work with them to co-create some courses, as you just spoke about. So for example, UNER has just, they are looking at the master's program, right? In terms of agroecology.
Ecology and food systems with European partners and other universities in Nigeria and Sierra Leone.
Thank you. And so that is a demonstration of what we are doing. We want to scale up all that to the universities because as you see the passion, we want to promote agroecology with our partners. CICOT is here. You saw the excitement that we have. And so there are very clear pathways. Secondly, we also have webinars that go on agroecology. So October is next month, right? We are going to have an agroecology conference by Action Aid in Nigeria. And so maybe we have to find a way through our communication sources to share that. And people who want to attend may find ways of doing so. And so the webinars, our own internal resources are the webinars. We work with partners to share. Yesterday, the British Commission, their training hub, the one by CD House, got in touch with us about how can we co-create some programs to run sustainable development workshops at the British High Commission. I think that's that's the name also. British Council, that's the word I'm looking for. And so it is very broad and diverse. And we are on top of that. Our primary role is working with movements. And that's why you can see smallholder women farmers here as well, because we are rooted at the community levels, and so ensuring that that is done. I think Afram is here. Afram, you want to talk about our Ecovista? Or he has stepped out? Or Justin? Anybody wants to talk about Ecovista? Because we are working with schools, and particularly also with UNER, we run debates, we run quizzes on climate change issues, sustainable agriculture, ecology. We are scaling that through, we also have that in your university, USD, University of Environment and Sustainable Development. And so we are looking at that. We are going to scale because we believe that catching the youth at the very earliest stage would contribute towards building their environment consciousness and their awareness to contribute towards climate change. And that is why we are doing that. So in all the regions that we are working in, we scale up Ecovista. That's working with very young people at the primary schools, having environmental clubs. I know others are doing it, and so we are just scaling up that. I hope that helps. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CD. So any further questions? Contributions to the presentations we've heard this morning from the CD as well as from the Dutch Embassy. Okay, so we have one question there. Please, your name and which institution you represent, then your question.
Thank you very much. My name is Kwesi Anderson from the National Biosafety Authority, but my contribution is not based on where I work or who I work for.
Sure.
It's based on what has been said from morning up until now. But before I make my contribution, I would like to know how many of us in this room took their COVID vaccine jabs? The COVID vaccine. Anybody here? Okay. That's great. Why did we take that? Safety, protection. We're afraid to die. And this was, when we've been told, was made in record time. And why was it possible? Advanced science, technology. So I had noted that, in fact, it was until the tail end of CD's presentation, then technology came in. But we are in the technology era. In fact, that's the 6th industrial revolution. And globally, Africa is always late to catch the bus. In fact, we never catch the bus. And I think it's important that as we look at all these things, we factor in technology. The 3% Americans that you mentioned, they are not doing the things we do here. They are heavy on technology, and they produce enough to even export. So in our discussion, our deliberation, in our activism, how can we add or infuse technology? Technology, indigenous technology. It can be from outside, but we've indigenized it with our own technical people, which is very key as far as I'm concerned. I was in a forum where somebody wanted to buy a phone at some point. It was very expensive then. By the time he got his money to buy the phone, it was out of production. They had moved to another version of the phone. And that is where I feel that as Africans, as Ghanaians, if we don't take advantage of this technology era, we'll be lost on that. I don't know how many banks reps are here, but they're talking about funding. Yes, Citibank and Co. are there. I don't know how much ADB funds agriculture. Probably 1%, 2%, I don't know, but I'm sure research will know. And there's need for us to, like the VC said, we should take action. As a country, where are our priorities? Is it food security? Is it food sovereignty? Is it free SHS, planting for food and jobs, oil drilling, ECPC? Where's our priority? Where do you want to put our resources? Is it to feed the people or what? And we need to look at all those things. In all this, I see a disconnect between academia, i.e. research, civil society, the country itself, and regulators. So we regulate, but it's only based on what is available to us and what the law says. But once we don't work together, there will be a problem or a lacuna. And I'll come to, Madam, the seed bank. I don't know your working relationship with the CSIR, Plant Genetic Resources, because they, as far as I'm concerned, they are mandated to have, in fact, all these things that we talked about, that some seeds are extinct or they are missing, they have a bank for all those. If you go to their place at, is it Bunsu? They have them. Probably be a matter of cost. But they have banks for all the indigenous seeds. And it's because of the things that we do. You mentioned that in your presentation, our activities that is impacting. But there are banks for others. So whether you want a pakoshito or whatever it is you want, it's there. So that is my contribution. Last one on the variety, the yield. You know, locally, or what we grow, what our farmers grow, and probably the women here will contradict me if I'm wrong. They don't grow the seeds. What they grow is the grain. So what do? Traditionally, you harvest, you leave some in the barn, the following plantings in your plant. That is the grain. Those who are doing farming commercial, even the Ghanaians, they buy the seeds. They don't plant the grain. And once you plant the grain, over time the yields diminish. So those are the things that we need to look at in terms of the broader discussion. Because those who are doing commercial farming, they don't plant grains. They plant the seed, they buy them. There's a group called the National Street Traders Association. I don't know whether you are aware of them. They are a conglomerate of those who buy and sell seeds. And they will tell you that if they're investing X amount of money, they want their returns. They wouldn't want to invest in grains and then after 2-3 planting cycles, the yield is low. So those are some of the things I want to raise probably before you go to the plenary and then that. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Oh, if you want to clap, please, let's clap. Right, so so CD has a response quickly, then we can take some further. You also have a response? Okay, we'll come to you, Ingi.
So I think that my good friend, what's the name again? Kwesi has brought very interesting critical dimensions into our table here. And for those who we've worked together, they know I like critical thinking. Technology. In this conference, we should situate technology in the discussion. He's asking the question. He's not just calling for an open-ended technology, but how do we customize technology? And he used the word indigenous technology. We should not always be seen chasing from the back. Thank you very much. In addition to that, Chair, he has made another very important point, and critical enough to say, if we are constantly calling for indigenous seed, and Senior Ben is here, are we taking into due cognizance the fact that the weaknesses of indigenous seed? How are we working to address that? That is also very important to place on the table as we go along. I know the issues have been coming over and over, and I think that, my good friend, we need to be looking at that. One of the places that fascinates me a lot is when he says, the more you plant seeds year on year, the value of the seed eventually deteriorates. How is technology going to help us do that? And you remember I mentioned a board member asked me a similar question. So how are we taking on board that? Then the third dimension is how are we working in close collaboration with entities or organizations, institutions like the government was? Like you spoke about some of the seeds. If we go to Bonsu, as we are lamenting here, we see some. That's a very good point. But it raises the question in terms of the transparency that I was talking about, the accountability. How do we take the people along? And that is where civil society will always be looking at. And so we need to look at that. I know there's Forestry Commission here. It would be good to also hear them. My friend at the back. My friend, I forgot your name. Kofi, and your boss, Doctor is also here, Dr. Pia. So let's hear your voices in the discussion. But once again, Kofi, Kwesi, thank you so much. Prof, on the table here, somebody wants to add something.
Right. And when we are done, Ingi also has an addition to that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I wanted to come in on the point of the disconnect between CSOs, industry, and academia. And I think I'll be speaking for my two other colleagues to say that where we find ourselves now in this program and what we are doing with Action Aid is one of the steps to go. How do we see what they are doing? How do they see what we are doing? How do we collaborate? And a lot of discussions have gone on between us to see the way forward. And so I would say that in that we are key to do that. I don't want to let it seem I'm speaking for my university, but for my university we do a lot of collaborations. We've been in existence for 4 years, and I can tell you the number of groups we have MOUs with and MOAs, and we are working on them. It is key for the development of the country because we can co-create and share knowledge, and also share data. Data is where everything sits.
Yeah.
So that if we share the data, we will know the way to go, especially if we talk about indigenous knowledge. What do we have as Ghanaians that will get us to do things based on Ghana or as Ghanaians? And one of the things you said, which I like very much, is for us to look at how we will adapt things for ourselves as a country. And so when industry meets academia or CSOs, and then we come to issues of R&D, how do we appropriate this to ourselves? And so that looking at that, we can both look at it and then move forward. Again, you also understand that we live in a global village, and so it will not be always what do we do for the Ghana, but it will be what we do for the Ghanaian to stay or to survive in the world, in the bigger picture. And so in R&D with academia, we can then look at how do we put these two together to work forward. As you know, in a developing country, it all boils down to funding. My friend here from UDS mentioned the issue of funding. How do these research institutions, how do these academic institutions do this research to get the results that we need? It also boils down to funding. And so we can look at it from both sides. CD said that government should cut off funds in some areas to fund some areas. And I think that the best way to look at is R&D in the higher education, in the research institutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. So we'll take some comments from Ingi in response to some of the concerns that have been raised. Then we'll come to you, my brother.
Yes, thank you. I want to make one distinguish that the national seed banks, yes, we work with them. I think they are very important to store genetic resource, the seeds of Ghana. Ghana also last year, they brought their seeds of indigenous seeds to Norway, to the Norwegian fold, like under the ice, to safeguard them. The one that we are working is community seed banks. So that is a point where farmers can go and they can store their seeds, and they can, it's a point of trading, sharing, and it's in the ground, but also at the storage. So it's more community-based, and both are important, but there is a distinguish, and it is not the same, because the National Seed Bank, the farmers cannot enter them to get like seeds for their garden eggs, but a community seed bank, they can. Right. I think the last one, what I want to say is, and that's what I also want to tell the government and every policy officer what is here, it's really important. I was at Farmers' Rights at the FAO, the United Nations for Food and Agriculture Organization, and it is important that also Ghana is represented there, because in the future, if we talk about technology, we're going to talk about digital sequence, about AI, and that are topics that also Ghana should follow and be on top of it for the future of the Ghanaian seed sector, but also the other sectors. I totally agree. Yeah.
All right. Okay, please, let's clap for her and take another round from my brother next to her. Thank you, sir.
Okay. My name is Hamza Suleimana, Northern Region activist. I don't know this question I should be asking, but since bread and butter will always be an issue, let me ask. So I want to know, how can we ensure that the transition from industrial agriculture to agribusiness does not marginalize workers in the fossil fuel and agribusiness industries, but instead offers them a sustainable livelihood? Thank you.
Okay. Any other question, contribution? All right, so my sister there has one. Right. So that's the question, please. It's about the transition and whether or not it will not have impact. You are afraid.
Thank you very much. Please, this question goes. Okay, I'm Senedo Prisla from Oti region, precisely KJB district. Please, I don't know whether this is the right time, but I will ask if it is not my time. Yes. Like on the program that I have here, I can see drought in the northern region. Yes, and I'm a smallholder women farmer. And this problem is not only northern region. Otu region too, we are affected. Yes, I'm a rice farmer, vegetable farmer, a lot. And this Tiasat now, there is nothing on the food, especially the rice. And the vegetables too, if you go and you see them, they are suffering. But where we are, precisely Menusu, that's my community. We have a very big river over there. And there are vast land, which when we get aid, like irrigation machines and all those things, we can do a lot over there. And then the women over there, or our group members will also have many support from you, and then they can take care of their wars in the community. So I'm just pleading, if there is any opportunity, as it is going to northern region, it can be extended to Oti, precisely Menusu, that's KJB district, Menusu. Thank you.
Thank you, my sister. So she says the rice is suffering, the vegetables are suffering, and there is an urgent need to have attention brought to those. So we have, okay, oh, yeah. Right behind, yes, there's a lady there with a question contribution. Please, your name, your organization, and your contribution.
Thank you very much. My name is Dolores. I'm from Yaira Global Organic Inputs Limited. I got passionate about what the last speaker spoke about, talking about droughts, talking about vegetables, food, and our grains and everything. Stand still because of the drought. Well, this year, we haven't experienced much rain, and we all attest to that fact. And it is affecting every sector when it comes to our food bank. From where I come from, as a Organic Input Limited, one of the things we are so passionate about is rejuvenating of our soil. We are facing what we are facing because we lose a lot of chemicals on our land. And bringing down of trees and all that is affecting our climate. So I'm very passionate when I hear farmers talk about their vegetables not being able to grow because of the drought. But thankfully, from where I come from, we have inputs that stands all weather, organic inputs. And this has been tried and tested. It is PPRSD, it is EcoSet certified, and it is also certified by Cocoa Board for for tree crops and fruits and vegetables. So when Action Aid decided to come up with their conference, we decided to partner them. Of course, they are doing agroecology, where we are looking at where we can partner them to have that agroecology going. So I would say that the women farmers at KJB and all the other sectors, we are here to support whatever they are doing so that we all can have food on our table to eat. Thank you very much.
Very well, Dolores. Thank you so much. So we come back to the questions asked earlier with my brother talking about the transition and whether or not there are some security issues in there in terms of jobs. Anyone to take that from the board, please? All right. So please, okay. HOP.
So basically, it's about what the simple concept of do no harm. If you understand what that means, it's a just transition. So in as much as we are trying to protect the environment, we are also thinking very much about those who are engaged in the jobs related to climate-related, what's it called, problems. So we also thinking that we should be thinking of helping them to transition justly from what they are currently doing into another job that at least does not do any harm to the environment. So we are not actually trying to forget about them, but we are thinking about ways. And that brings about the concept of a just transition from the jobs that damage the climate to jobs that are at least climate friendly. And that is what we are also promoting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. And I'm sure with the issue about droughts, right after lunch, we'll get into the conversations proper. Priscilla, I'm sure you saw it there. And so we'll get into that conversation and then we can talk more. But are there further questions from the presentations we've seen this morning? From John. Okay, please. Kwesi will have an addition.
Now, if you're going to invest so much in agroecology, it ends in the farm. There's so much produce. What happens to glut? You know, and that's what we most of the time lose sight of. So she produces more. It doesn't get to where it's supposed to. Even if it does, it's already damaged. So in terms of the discussion, but what I want to ask the ladies or women here, you go to the market and they tell you, oh, this is tomato from Côte d'Ivoire, granite from Mali, and more often than not, they are expensive than what we call indigenous. I'm wondering why is that? Why do people prefer cabbage from Côte d'Ivoire? Because I find it, for instance, this Mali, Burkina, these are desert, but tomatoes, it's expensive, and you are spending so much. But my inclination is that that's what the women want, that's what the people want. I don't know if the men also, but you go to the market and bring them home. So,
so the women. Right, please.
It's basically on the shelf life. So over time, we've noticed that the Ghanaian tomato, when you put it down, even now, when you do just pepper and tomato to eat your kinky, it's so watery. But when you do that of the tomato from Burkina, you see the food in it. And it all boils down to what we are doing to our soil. It all boils down to that. Like the director said, growing up, we never had fertilizer in the system. Our parents or our grandparents, they were growing by using the cow dung and all those things. Now, Ghanaian farmers, I think we've gotten so much land that we cannot plow all, so we now use other means to cultivate the land, or killing the weeds and all that, and those things have effect on the land. So when you plant your tomato, and instead of you getting a tomato with food in it or quality stuff in it, now the tomato is looking big, so nice, so red and all that, but it's all water. So we look at the life shelf of it. Okay. So now when we go to the market, we are looking for Burkina tomato instead of the Ghanaian one.
All right. Well, so I'll take a Ghanaian answer and come to a Dutch answer quickly. So let me take a Ghanaian one. From Prof, I saw earlier that, yes.
Yeah, yes. I'm Andrew Ulmantor, a lecturer at University of Environment and Sustainable Development. We did some research in Upper East region. I wanted to know why Via Dam does not produce again. Tonu have all collapsed. If you look at these dams, irrigation dams in the 90s, they were like gold we see today. You go to Navrungu, you go to Borga area, the people build, they have money to build in dry season. That's when they used to do this. Now, we asked why. And they said they were producing, and then, like she said, their tomato, what do you call it? The women who come to buy from the south have realized that their tomato is watery. It's so fruity, and so they cross the border and they find better ones. And so they resorted to buying from that place. They were out of business. So the dams are virtually not producing again. And so that's the problem we have there. My issue was, what's actually in Burkina Faso that they are able to produce this. Because if you talk about land, we have land better than them. We have water here. What is it that is missing that we cannot go to learn to come and replicate that, or probably bring in an expert to come and help our farmers? That is what I don't know. I still find it difficult. So I was thinking maybe as part of a, what you call it, planting for food and job. I don't know. Maybe one time someone told me, oh, that's GMO tomato. I don't support it. I think that I've seen tomato also at the border of Togo and Benin. They don't do GMO. It's the same as in Burkina Faso. So probably government need to bring in those guys to come and teach our people so that we can revamp this irrigation. But that's the problem now, as you said.
Right.
Thank you.
You know, I used to think that Navrongo tomatoes were the sexiest, but looks like now Burkina Faso has taken over.
Yeah.
So let me fly over to the Netherlands and get some responses from Inge. Do you cultivate tomatoes?
No, we're not, because we did a big study about the tomatoes,
Right.
and indeed it's a lot from Burkina Faso, and that's not because of the soil, but it's because of the variety. But I fully agree why are Ghanaians taking the Burkina Faso tomatoes. That's because the shelf life is much longer and the texture is what is liked in Ghana. And I think the same was with cucumber from Togo, and there are some more. And the problem is also they can produce cheaper than we can do here in Ghana. So that's why they end up at our markets.
Interesting dynamics.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Please, we have two more. And please, my ladies are coming around with your coupons. It's your ticket to heaven. Make sure you hold on to it.
Thank you.
With your dear life.
I'm Douglas Nyaba.
Right, Doug.
I work for Plan International Ghana. I just want to make a contribution to the Burkina tomato and that of the Ghana tomato. I'm a producer of tomatoes.
Right.
Based in Boga. Prof, I want to, Prof VC for UDS, he said something. Talk about corruption, connection, and another C. Confusion. You see, when this Burkina thing started, I was a bit young, but my father was a tomatoes producer in both Boga and Navrongo. It's about connection. One, the middlemen based in Boga, Navrongo, and elsewhere, they want to make money. So the women from Accra, Kumasi, these market queens will connect with them. Because if they are to buy from Boga, because it's seedy, they will not get any profit. So they connect the Burkina Faso because they are safer, is stronger than Ghana. So let's say you are going to buy a crate of tomato in Boga, 100 cedis. You will not make profit. So these middlemen find their way to lure the women to Burkina. Another thing is that, though I'm not going to say this based on evidence, it is not scientifically established, but my own observation is that these women find, I think they are doing a two-way trade. Please don't put me anywhere, I beg. They are doing a two-way trade. As they move from Ghana, they send certain items across. They make profit over there. Please, the universities are here. You can do your own research to establish this. But that's why I'm saying that don't quote me elsewhere. They go there, they make profit, either including, sometimes back, it was fuel. When Ghana, the petrol was cheaper, it was fuel. They will pack 4 gallons on one crate, use another crate to cover it. They move to Burkina, they sell. They buy tomatoes, they come back to Ghana, and they sell. Are they not making double profit? So if they are to stop in Navrongo, Bolga, and buy, they will not make that double profit. So it's about connection, it's about corruption, and it's about confusion.
The triple C's.
No, that's why in my solidarity message, I say when the elders, in where I'm coming from, when the elders have spoken, the young only need to obey. So I will continue to quote my prof. So last year, I still produce, but not in large quantity. Last year, I went to Burkina in a community called Zabre to buy the seed to try. We tried it. It was not large. So, but I'm busy. So my farm boys, it was ripe. They will carry the thing to Burger Market. The women will just say this. But we follow all the procedures that we needed to get the right market. But the thing was there. The women will move with their vehicle full. And I know the guys are making money, the middlemen.
Right.
The boys in Burger, some of them, they haven't, sorry to say, they haven't gone to school, but they are more smarter than us. Some of them currently, they have built houses, so they will never allow the farmers to produce in Navrongo and Burger. I'm telling you, until there is a political will from government to stop or moderate the import of tomatoes from Burkina to Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, let's clap for all of us. We've done so well, and I know very well that we have so much to digest, but why don't we also allow our bodies to digest something first? Then when that is done, we can come and get into more. I thought you were raising your hand for a question. The way my heart jumped, All right, so I'm sure that we all do have our coupons. We'll be ushered to the restaurant where we will have lunch. Please, we know we are far behind time, so by 2 p.m., let's all be back here so that we can kickstart the next session. I am sure that is being fair to all of us. So 44 minutes of mastication and then networking. Ladies and gentlemen, do have a wonderful lunch. Bon appetit.